Greetings, readers and friends. Harvey Michaels here. I'm thrilled to welcome you to our adventure into Danshui President Plunge, Book 1, Evacuate or Pay. It was an electrifying story to write, and I can't wait to share some with you today. Before we dive in, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't already. Your support means the world to me. Thank you kindly. Okay, here we go. Chapter 2, Part 2, Willie. What just changed? Willie, Wei Li, asks himself. He fingers his sternum, where the tip from a long knife protruding woke him, the same as what killed his friend. Lately, that spot on his chest is a fearsome touchstone he uses to keep him going. And right now, it's an image he remembers the feel of. The sides of his head squeezed down and in, remembering the horror he woke from, stabbed like Pie-Face Gaobai again. The Lord's involved now. He punched D's time clock again. I should have peace. He shakes his head and keeps moving. It's past where he can stop what's in motion. Willie was up 3 hours before D called. It wasn't just today, it was every day. He didn't think of himself as an early bird. Since ever, he just always had so many things he wanted to do. He crossed the line to being an obsessive workaholic in his teenage youth, and he crossed the line to becoming an engineering and tech genius inventor not long afterward. Willie was never ego-obsessive, not competitive with others or even with himself. He cared not if it was for himself or for a client. For 30 years, Willie worked on what he yearned to do. Every morning it wasn't coffee or a pet he reached for, but the next step in the latest gizmo, software, or system he felt driven to learn everything about and then master. His knack for technology was a force. You would not say he was savvy. Savviness implies satisfaction. The stack of notebooks and mini tape recorders by his bedside attested to the power of his itch. Waking charged and driven to forge ahead each day ceased for 4 years only. His self-described bottomless pit of woe when depression struck and pulled him down 2 years after Pie-Face was murdered, when Willie ran out of his electric passion for finding Pie-Face's killer, for finding justice. Police investigators gave up long before Willie, soon after the crime. Once Willie recognized he hit all dead ends, searching for clues, he felt crushed. Mornings became duties he dragged himself out of bed to face. For weeks, then months, Willie pined for the deepest loves of his life a second time, Pie-Face and Wanda. Wanda and Willie were a family, souls melded together through extreme violence they suffered and unnurturing families who cut them loose. Those depressed years after Pie-Face died, Willie clung to memories, only going through the motions of finding release for his depression. His heart was a waterless desert. Dee and Evie never gave up on their friend and found dozens of reasons to get together or ask for his help. Willie let them pray for him. He searched scriptures himself for answers, but he couldn't or wouldn't open his wounded heart enough to let the festering pain out and the healing in. And God was the one friend Willie smoldered angry at. Deep-rooted in him, he harbored a grudge against God. One day, one phone call changed everything. Willie suddenly had a lead on what happened to Pie-Face. He made charts of cautious action plans before each and every step he took. That first lead led to others, and Willie's wasteland desert of a heart bloomed again. He began eating healthy, working out, waking up on fire to get somewhere. Willie is finishing up in his large apartment, also his lab, study, and gym. He grabs several items and closes the parts cabinet for computers and surveillance devices. He reins in his excitement and focuses on his plans, now complicated by Dee's call. Everything is in place for this biggest of days. The dedicated server and computer are dialed in, prepared over weeks, concocting intricate surveillance setups with all manner of backup systems to best use and preserve data he observed or hacked. Willie was excited and baffled after midnight early today when he overheard targets he was surveilling say, "Today, victory, then we disappear." He worked in preparation these months to resolve what frustrated him for 8 years. It robbed his joy for so long, so many years, but Willie knows an answer is within reach. His mind wanders back through rising images of mountain tea fields, triggered by thinking, for so long, so many years. Willie unconsciously twists and untwists the plastic water bottle cap never far away, and ponders just how many years, how many seasons of years. How many lives have I lived so far? He checks them off and pulls on his beard as he thinks. Willie does not count his complicated earliest family history, everything before he was 12, ignoring that unsolvable heartbreak. Willie reckons the last of his childhood after that was wasted too, suffering violence in reward for spending time to gain approval from a gang of juvenile delinquents. He wants to drop the thought, but now he has hold of the thread and it unravels in Willie's mind. Problems in Willie's family history read like a tragic novel. His Taiwanese grandfather was one of the thousands killed as a young man in the infamous 228 massacre in February 1948. Those days, some of the Chinese immigrants who took over and were running Taiwan's government killed Taiwanese who were rebelling against what they saw as foreign oppressive rulers. The only son of Willie's slain grandfather, Willie's father, Wei Rong, was also taken from the family at a very young age. Willie's father married young, and when he was just 20, Willie was born. But as happened during the martial law period that lasted for 38 years following 228, Willie's father was the victim of someone's accusations. A business competitor who was from a mainland Chinese family claimed Willie's father, a native Taiwanese, spoke against the government. That was all it took in those days, and there was no recourse from such accusations unless you had a powerful relationship network, and Willie's family had none. Willie's father was sent to Green Island, a most beautiful place off the east coast of Taiwan where a most ugly prison held political prisoners. There he met many true dissidents, and though he went to prison naive and innocent for a spiteful lie, 5 years later he came out a dedicated anti-government soldier whose weapon was pen and paper. Upon his release, he spent his time quietly writing letters and reading books about the Taiwanese dissident cause. He never got in trouble, never argued with anyone, but apparently he was noticed, or more likely, he was under surveillance from the day he left prison. One night, he just didn't come home from his job cleaning up in a restaurant not far from their home. His body was never found. No word ever came of it, except the local government assuring Willie's family the authorities had investigated as fully as they could, and, well, he might have sought better fortunes elsewhere. Willie's life story began in earnest when he was 12 years old. All he had seen and heard in his young life had hardened him, and perhaps coping with his father's murder/disappearance, perhaps sensing a chance at a group claiming family closeness, Willie began hanging around the neighborhood gang, who did not welcome his eagerness to join them. Because Willie's past did not make him violent. Just the opposite. Violence repulsed him. He wanted to be part of the gang, but Willie didn't fit the mold. They pushed him aside, told him he was too short, too weak. He met Yuanya, Wanda, in those days. She lived nearby and was 2 years younger than him at the primary school he went to. Willie had no siblings, just an absentee mother. So he came to care for Wanda as he would a younger sister. She was kind and optimistic, besides pretty and wholesome looking. And Willie wanted to protect her and keep her from being broken like he saw everyone else, broken and embittered. Times were tough. Small things were important. Willie would share his food, his tools, and his time with Wanda. He asked nothing back from her, and they became more than friends. They became family. Wanda's parents didn't have money to let a daughter stay in school past elementary school. She had to cook and clean and man their small shop while her farmhand parents worked long hours outside. Willie consoled her and convinced her that school was overrated, though learning was not. He always shared his Chinese books and what he thought were the best lessons from school. He urged her to be a fighter for learning. She could learn all the important things with or without school. Willie zealously held the same unorthodox idea about learning he pushed on Wanda. He saw his own education as vital, but not in the way the system told students. Math and mechanical things became Willie's life. They were Willie's comic books, his movie theater, his sports, and his dreams. Willie was an extremely smart, quick-thinking boy. He was number one wherever he managed to attend and stay in school. He didn't achieve grades and awards to impress the teachers, but as a byproduct of conquering every part of worthwhile unlearned subjects he himself targeted. Electrical engineering became a focal point and an escape for him. He begged and begged until the local appliance repair shop let him work for dirt cheap, sweeping dirt from their concrete floors. Willie smiles, recalling how he told Pieface the story long ago. Within 2 years, it was the repair shop begging Willie to stay. But at 14, he already learned everything he could at that place, working 18-hour days minus the time he had to go to school. He wanted to find a bigger shop in the city. "Get ready for me to leave," he informed them. Willie's home life then was cold and lonely. His mother was depressed, lethargic, since Green Island entered their life long before her husband was killed or disappeared. Willie knew he reminded her of Willie's father. She rarely ate with Willie and would not look up from her television to say hello or goodbye, good morning or good night. Eventually, she was convinced by relatives to marry again in 1976 when Willie was 13. Family made it known to Willie that he would be a liability for her new marriage. Willie understood the situation and steeled himself to do the right thing. A kind uncle, his mother's big brother, the sole Christian in their family tree, offered to help Willie live with them. But Willie saw that as still too close to family for his mother. Willie began sleeping in the repair shop. He wasn't bitter, and he thought it was good he didn't worry about his mother and hoped she didn't worry about him. He was fixated on getting an education, which to Willie meant learning whatever he could about electronic gadgetry. In those days, appliances. Oddly, probably to substitute for family, Willie still hoped to win his way into the neighborhood gang in some teenage convoluted logic by being the best handyman. They spurned his overtures, but never pushed hard because Willie brought snacks and drinks to induce their favor. The first few weeks of living in the shop became months, and he felt satisfaction repairing the newest washing machines and refrigerators. He believed that everything was all there for him to master, and he also came to see he had never been happier. But one night, every happy fantasy of life and inclusion crashed around him. His uncle rushed nervously into the shop to tell him something happened. Willie thought it was about his own family, and he was trying to look concerned when his uncle broke the worst possible news. Though they had no history of such a heinous crime, Wanda had been violently raped and beaten by the very gang he thought he wanted to belong with. Willie stormed over to confront them, feeling an animal rage that surprised him, even scared him. The gang attacked Willie too, nearly killing him before his uncle ran to his side, blowing a neighborhood watch whistle. He woke up in a doctor's clinic in a bed across from Wanda's, gasping from the pain of broken ribs and a broken arm, as well as knife wounds around the side of his forehead and under his jaw, which the doctor claimed just missed his artery. His uncle was there praying over them both for hours from his chair. Wanda, scarred worse on her face than Willie, spoke little for months. The doctor never told her parents that Wanda could never have children after what she endured. The doctor knew if he told them, they might desert Wanda. In the countryside, many people still saw a woman's worth entirely as a child bearer. The repair shop paid both Willie's and Wanda's medical bills, hoping to reignite the fire in Willie's eyes. He swore an oath to repay them, and he began back at the shop with a cast on his broken arm. He wore the fading lacerations and bruises on his face like a badge of honor for his brotherly love for Wanda. Every few weeks, appliances they had never seen before would show up, needing repairs. Willie dove in each time with suppressed excitement. He didn't want anyone to see his glee taking apart a short-circuited automatic dishwasher or a dropped television. The repair shop was getting a name for itself, and Willie was still going to school, but he skipped many days. His uncle would visit and tell Willie the school called him about this or that, but he never told Willie to stop skipping school. His uncle was very proud of Willie, told him so, and told him he was praying for Willie and Wanda. He asked Willie over for dinner all the time, but Willie always declined. There was so much to take apart, to repair, and to learn. Gazing down into his mug of tea again in 2016, Willie thought maybe back in the late 70s he was taking apart and fixing his life then, one appliance at a time. People were lucky to make any money in those days, and Willie was doing well for himself. That shop prospered even more than Willie from his fanatic stamina and cagey ingenuity. Besides now selling new appliances, they took half of the growing amount of repair shops Willie brought in himself, and more than half from everything else he fixed. They recognized Willie was compulsively all about the work and took advantage of him. Willie always marveled at how poor quality some of the parts were. He began building relationships with some manufacturers. Someone should tell you about your shoddier parts. He began linking up with more of the companies with factories in Taiwan to ask about their manufacturing procedures, making suggestions, making inquiries. The companies came to visit Willie, bringing illustrations or small mock-ups of next-generation parts and circuits. They all enjoyed their time together, bright engineers and this young protege who would work in the shop repairing things while giving them priceless feedback and creative genius ideas for moving forward. They gave him red envelopes of cash and insisted as elders and friends that he put it in the bank and not tell anyone about the cash he was saving. In the course of one 6-week period, just 2 years after limping back into the shop, Willie quit school and shared 5 patents in his name with 2 other electrical engineers kind enough to not steal his ideas outright. Willie fearlessly opened his own company in a 2-story shop with a 3-floor apartment in Zhanghua, an hour from Nantou, just south of Taichung. He was barely 16 years old. Willie's uncle didn't agree with Willie leaving the local shop because he didn't know the whole story. He didn't realize how much of a tech savant Willie was. From that year until now, every Chinese New Year, Willie met his uncle alone at the very restaurant Willie's father disappeared from. Willie would give his uncle a generous hongbao, the tradition for younger generations to pay back the older generations, showing filial piety. Willie began asking about his mother, and when he was 21 years old, she came to the restaurant to meet him too. "Mother, you look younger than you did 8 years ago," he said, smiling. "Don't cry, Mother. We are all doing all right. It worked out for the best. I don't think you left me. I hope you don't think I left you." 2 years of Willie's insisting later, Wanda relented and moved to join with Willie in Zhanghua. Away from her sorry old world, Wanda got better, but it was slow going. For a long season, she was nothing like her past effervescent self. Then a blessed rainbow began shining over Wanda. She was 19, beautiful despite the many scars on her face, and full of health. Till then, there were no pictures of Wanda smiling, not until she met Pieface and Jesus. There was a building with a giant lighted cross 4 doors up the street from their growing repair shop business. Even though Willie bought her a new motor scooter, Wanda almost always chose to walk for exercise. She came to understand her driven need to exercise was her fear of being weak. Wanda walked past that crossed building when she ran errands for the office. She'd see it returning from the post office or on her way to the bank or picking up lunch. Besides her own reflection in the big windows, she would look at the posters taped up. Services, programs, and Bible classes were advertised, but never with a price. Willie explained it was all free, but they would then trick you and get your money later. One day, Wanda walked right up to Willie's face and told him, "I want to learn how to defend myself." She'd seen a poster announcing the opening of a Tai Chi Chuan martial arts class on Saturday afternoons. Willie suggested she could ask about the class, but it would be better to pay for a more professional class at a studio. "Wanda, let our company pay for you to have the best learning." It started her on her way to learning self-defense, and it was how she met Pieface, her first and only martial arts teacher. Pieface, with his unassuming look, prematurely thinning hair, and lopsided smile from which would come a most contagious laugh when the time was right, barely taller than Wanda, won her heart without trying. It was not his thickly muscled strength from martial arts training which drew her love, but his unfeigned, internally seared loyalty for anyone in his life. Wanda did go inside that building with the cross in front to ask them about their class, and later to say, "Thank you anyway." She met a few very nice people who asked her back for tea and chatting, and that started her on her way to meet Jesus. Willie was much slower to come around to both of them, Pieface and Jesus, both of whom he saw as having stolen Wanda from him. But he couldn't deny she had blossomed all over the place. She went from being gloomy to cheerful, from shrinking away from life to being outgoing. Willie wasn't angry, but he wasn't celebrating either. One day, Wanda hugged him, which was unusual, and said that she had fallen in love with Pieface. She explained she would always love Willie, and maybe they would have settled into a marriage, but now she knew what love should feel like. She said she couldn't really explain about Jesus, but that she wanted to know everything about him and follow him. It was still too new to explain to Willie. She hugged him again, and her eyes brimmed over with tears. "Willie, thank you for making me read, for speaking English with me, for being my brother. I really love you, you know." Just like that, Willie's constipated feelings about Pieface were gone, and he was smiling ear to ear for Wanda. The next 7 years, 1984 to 1991, were a blur of activity for Willie, the early days of the computer industry expansion in Taiwan. From the beginning of the technology gold rush, Taiwan was a major player in computer parts and components. The entrepreneurial Taiwanese businessmen matched the needs of the Western companies, and when necessary, they created their own products, though almost always to support foreign entities rather than for Taiwanese companies. Willie built, repaired, and sold computers, but he had no ambition to expand. He turned away much of the business that came to him because he didn't want to get any bigger, which he saw as a death trap for his passion for certain engineering. Willie wanted to decrease his busyness and focus on new things. He missed his gratifying years repairing TVs and VCRs. Willie dove into working more with miniaturization. Wanda and Pieface met Andrew D. Fisher, the tall, light-haired American, and his Taiwanese wife, petite and passionate new lawyer Elizabeth Eby, through Christian circles. They clicked together in ways more like family than friends. Wanda dragged Willie to Sunday afternoon barbecues at D and Eby's, and from the start, something happened between them, binding them together. The five of them met for coffee, for box lunches at Willie's shop, for picnics, always making a next time to get together. Dee, Eby, and Wanda explained Jesus and the Bible in a way that made sense and did not push Pieface and Willie into a corner. Somehow, this crew of friends began helping people with their unique set of skills and talents, but mostly from a willingness to help. One thing led to another. An insider in the police department tipped them to impossible cases for police to handle. The self-named Odd Family rescued some battered mothers and exposed some blackmailing criminals. Willie's newfound expertise at all things miniature and surveillance-oriented opened many doors. He came up with incredible tools from their imaginations, and they acted out parts in a team like a Mission Impossible TV show plot. One day, a plea came from a man who wanted to be a silent partner. The anonymous man propositioned their group use their abilities to do good deeds. The first successful jobs led to one that absolutely cemented the Odd Family together. That was the time they had to locate and somehow free a kidnapped child in China. Upon success beyond what they aimed for, rescuing and escaping as they were chased across China with 7 other children they also found captive, the Odd Family felt confident for even bigger challenges, and Willie began longing to make a different leap, to make a family of his own. Before anything could progress further, Wanda and Pieface got married. After 3 years of delaying, they tied the knot, video recorded for posterity. Any reminiscing included the newlyweds' first dance. Each note of Roberta Flack's "The first time ever I saw your face" never was the same in any of their minds. Dee and Eby had 1 toddler son and a new baby boy. Wanda and Pieface were hopeful to make a family too, and the Odd Family had high hopes for Willie going on his first dates. Suddenly, tragically, Wanda perished in central Taiwan's huge 1999 earthquake. The newlyweds had only just agreed to adopt children after Pieface converted to follow Jesus and got baptized. Before that, she would only agree to raise pet dogs together with Pieface, dogs that also perished on the same night with Wanda. Dee, Eby, and Willie were overcome with grief, in some ways more than Pieface. He was comforted after a few days with the thought that Wanda and he would be together again in heaven. They all limped back into their familiar pre-Odd Family jobs. Pieface's martial arts studio, Dee's various tutoring subjects, E.B.'s law practice, and Willie's tech business. Getting together was mostly for Dee and E.B.'s family events until the big case in 2000. Their silent partner had already expressed a desire to partner more with the Odd family, helping people. "We're not ready," was all they said each time. However, they agreed to work on one emergency case defending a large computer company. Their silent partner was connected and asked them for help, though still anonymous to them. The computer company faced charges they were at fault for a girl's severe injuries actually caused in a setup by her own father, saddled with gambling debt to mob bosses. Dee retired following that case, a medical necessity. E.B. stopped practicing law and pursued a new career as a school teacher. Willie and Pieface were inseparable, brothers from different mothers. The four of them shared daily news and vacations, and it gradually restored the Odd family for a wonderful half-dozen years or so. Willie was even dating, though he kept it to himself until he could say he found the one. Pieface became somewhat obsessed with a young girl who irregularly showed up at martial arts tournaments. This martial arts supergirl came to contests and disappeared without a trace after beating older and bigger boys. It happened 3 different times over 4 years, and the Odd family members were aware of the situation through their friend Pieface. Somehow, Pieface saw a tortured soul and tried every way he could to locate the young girl to help her. He exchanged words with her before her second tournament began, and between matches in her third and final tournament she entered. But each time she slipped away before they could crown her the winner, and before Pieface could talk more with her. One day he was sure he found her and told Willie, Dee, and E.B. he was going to help her to confront her abuser. That person killed, or had Pieface killed, stabbed through the heart from behind. Police never recovered the murder weapon. They had no clues about the crime, still an open case, nearly 9 years old. Willie was overcome with remorse for not going with Pieface, and more, for not knowing details about what Pieface was up to. Dee and E.B. were deeply saddened, but also exceedingly worried about Willie. Later that year, Willie took time to help Dee behind the scenes because Dee was implicated in some mob murders that seemed to follow him in a series of morbid coincidences. Once that resolved itself and Dee miraculously returned from horrific injuries again, Willie went back to tracking Pieface's killer. Then, a year later, Willie succumbed to the zero-clue hopelessness of his cause. The long up and down road of researching, following, surveilling, all led to this very day. Willie pulls on today's quarter length of yesterday's beard and touches his chest again, where the recurring dream put the knife blade punched through Willie's own heart, as if it was through Pieface's. If you take me today, Lord, let us get justice first. That's it for today. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed the reading this time. Please leave a comment if you did. What did you think? Remember, sharing is caring, so please do tell a friend who would like to join us here. If you are enjoying the journey, I'd be so grateful if you would be a supporter and pick up a copy of Danshui President Plunge on Amazon and leave a review. Until next time, take care. I look forward to seeing you here again. See you then.